This one is quiet, and nobody gets shot through a window in it, and no train arrives, on time or otherwise. But we are telling it to you anyway, because it played tonight, and you were in the room, and those are the rules of the couch. That there is a world where a man built a library inside his father's house. In the one room of that house his father would never visit. He did not set out to build a library. And nobody sets out to. In the beginning there was one book. He wrote it the way you write a letter, for one reader, because the reader had said 3 sentences to them. Hold on to them. This whole world is built on them. They will come back, and the book was the answer to all 3. He carried it down 14 stairs and put it in his father's hands. And it went unread, not refused. Nothing so sharp, set on the low table, under the remote, with a bookmark that never moved, which in that house is a kind of burial with honors. And here you must let the fable keep its own physics, because every world in this book is allowed one impossible thing, and this world's is this. A book that is read gets to let inside of its reader, and a book that is not read has to let somewhere else. It went back up the stairs and grew a room around itself. So he wrote it again, this same book at its core, a better door into it, a gentler first mile, and again it came back up and grew a second room. By the time the man understood what he was building, the bedroom had 30 rooms in it. By the time we take up the story, it had 494. One flight up from the kitchen, behind a door that looks, from the landing, like a boy's bedroom door, because that is what it is. The house is small. The room is not. And nobody who has not opened the door would believe it, and thus the door remains closed to this day. And not 500. Sit with the number the way he did. 490. 4 is not a number a man announces. It is a number a man arrives at. Round numbers are for builders who expect to be asked how many, and to have the answer ready, and to watch the asker whistle. He kept the true number in the ledgers, because ledgers do not whistle, and do not ask. And file this early, because it is the fact the whole world turns on, and the one man who needed it most never once suspected so. Nobody needs 494 books. One would do the job well enough. The other 490, 3 are the first one. Try it again. New doors cut into the same house. New roads laid toward the same town. Because when a letter goes undelivered, you do not write a different letter. You write the same letter better forever. A library at this size is not an achievement. It is what an unread book does instead of dying. If the first one had been opened at the kitchen table the first evening it was handed across, this whole world would be one shelf long, and the shelf would contain exactly one book, and this chapter would not exist. Every wing upstairs is a monument to a single evening that never occurred. We will do the labor next, because the labor is the part no one in any world disputes. There was no one there to dispute it, which is the whole fable, but stay with the labor a minute. It deserves one witness with a clipboard. He wrote every word of every one of them, and then he raised the rooms they demanded, quietly, at night. He mixed his own mortar, and taught himself glazing from a book he then shelved under glazing. He learned binding and gilding, and the long arithmetic of the classification, which was the actual mission in the carpentry, only its furniture, because each unread book, waiting, collected a room's worth of company around itself. Sources, maps, testimony, the rivers behind the river book, 100,000 spines in all, each given its one true number, and the numbers must never collide, because a thing filed wrong is a thing lost as surely as a thing buried. Each room took its subject like a tenant. 7 years. 7 winters of working with the window cracks so the glue could breathe. If you stacked the hours into end, it would reach out of that house and past the water tower, and nobody who slept in that house ever noticed the stack. But that is the fable. But we said we would stay with the labor, and we have, but we cannot do so any longer. And now the shelving, because the word is going to matter, and this report has been unfair to it in earlier tellings, and unfairness left standing becomes the record. The son wrote books and raised walls, but he was no handyman. Enter that plainly. 12 careers upstairs, and not one of them could hang a door flush, and books need shelves. The shelves are the father's. All of them. He built them in the garage, evenings, across the years, without ever asking what they were for or how many rooms there now were to furnish. Plain pine, cut true, joints you could stand on, new lengths of shelving appearing at the foot of the stairs whenever the son said the word more, and he must have said it 100 times. The father carried them up himself, 14 steps, set them down at the landing, at the door, and never once crossed it. He measured nothing. He had never seen the room. In every shelf fit anyway, because a man who has been useful with his hands for 60 years knows the weight and the span of a thing he cannot name. So understand what that building is, one flight up, before this report says another word about anybody. It is the two of them, collaborating, at a distance of one closed door, the father holding everything up, the son deciding what gets held. Neither man has ever seen the other's half of the work. Because a library, the son understood, is not rooms. It is the feeling, when you stand in the rooms, of the order that outnumbers you. A library of one is a contradiction, and the halls know it. Empty halls have perfect hearing. So he staffed it. He invented them. 12 names on the ledgers, and no to the same hand. The acquisitions clerk wrote with a backward lean and abbreviated ruthlessly, a man with somewhere to be. The cataloger was strict about margins. Her cards were small acts of law. There was a night porter who signed with 2 initials and misspelled the same word for 7 years, because consistency is what makes a man real. There was a binder who pressed too hard. There was a woman in periodicals who dated everything twice, top and bottom, as if she didn't trust the top of a page to keep its word. He gave each of them a hand, a set of grudges. They disputed one another in the margins. He'd enter a complaint in one hand on a Tuesday and answer it in another hand on a Friday, and the answer would be a little curt, because those two had history, a different signature on every wing. We'll walk the building end to end, and you walked through 12 careers, while the entire staff slept in a single queen-sized bed. And now the doors, because you're already asking how a room like that is entered, and the answer is the second impossible thing, which is only the first one seen from outside. A room that grows rooms grows doors, the way a tree grows rings. The near door, the one on the landing, at the top of the 14 stairs, is the only door the house knows about. But the far wings open outward, onto roads the county has never surveyed, roads that do not pass the porch or trouble the yard, and a traveler on those roads can walk into the deep stacks without ever touching the front steps of the house. That is not a hole in the fable. That is the fable being more honest than a man. The library was never hidden. It was public in every direction except one. The near door is the only door in the building that has never once been opened from the other side. And why build it at all, wing after wing? For the stranger. A stranger coming in off those far roads was to feel what you feel in any great institution, that the order preceded you and will outlast you and has, somewhere in its depths, already prepared your cart. A stranger would stay. A stranger was the entire point of the architecture. Every room was a wager that someone was watching, and he kept doubling that bet the way only a losing man could. And now the bricks. In that world there is an old custom of the road. A traveler who comes upon an unfinished thing worth finishing, and cannot stay to help, leaves a brick at the door. It is not payment. It is smaller and larger than payment. It means, this is real. I saw it. Count me. In the third year, on an ordinary morning, there was a brick at one of the far thresholds. Fired clay, edges worn round by some other wall's whole lifetime, still cold from the night. A known note. He never saw who. In the 6th year, a second brick, redder, sharper, from a different kiln in a different life. That is the complete visitor record for 7 years and 494 rooms. 2 bricks. He catalogued them. Of course he catalogued them. Cataloging was a country he was king of. A case in the entrance hall, the good glass, set at the height where the morning light lands at 10 o'clock. Accession numbers 1 and 2 of a collection containing nothing else. And here is the detail we carried out of that world through clenched teeth. The cards for the bricks are the only 2 cards in the building written in his own hand. Every wing is signed, and no wing is signed by him. The staff got the library. The bricks got the man. You could do the division and call it failure. 2 bricks, 7 years, half 1,000 rooms. A bank would foreclose on numbers like that. He never saw it that way, and he had the only defense there is. A brick is not a wall. A brick is a witness. Division can make a rate small. It has never once made a witness small. Somebody stood at that door in the 3rd year, and somebody else stood at it in the 6th, and each of them knew exactly what they were looking at, and nothing that happened in the years between made either of them know it any less fondly. And nobody asked him why he didn't stop. We want to be precise about that, because this whole world stands on the sentence. Nobody asked. To be asked why you keep going, somebody has to have noticed that you were going in the first place. Although we can't tell you what he would have said, because we've stood where he stood, in more worlds than this one, with the level in our hand and the light going. If he stops, the silence turns around. All 7 years of it about faces and marches back through every room he never finished, and what it leaves behind is what was always there. A man talking to an empty hall. As long as he builds, the silence is only in front of him, and silence in front of you has another name, which is an audience that is late. A finished library no one comes to is a tomb, and everything in it was buried the day he cut the ribbon for an empty room. An unfinished library is an appointment. He classified, therefore, the way a man bails a boat, not to get anywhere, but because he's taking on water, and the water never stops. And now the stairs. His father lived at the other end of them, 14 steps down, in the low warm rooms of the same house. With a porch light he replaced the day it dimmed. A kind man. We want that in this report without any varnish on it. A kind man. He fed whoever came up the front steps. He waved at cars he didn't recognize, on the theory that he might. But we have gone through every world we have ever filed from looking for a cruel version of this man, and we have never found one, and you should know that we looked, because cruel would have been easier to classify. The son came down those 14 stairs to that table every evening. And every evening, first thing, before the scores even, the father asked how the shelving was going. For 7 years this report heard that question wrong, and tonight we correct the record. He was not being small. He was asking about the parts that he built. It is the only question in the whole building he owns the grammar for, and he asked it every evening, faithfully, the way a man checks on a joint he cut. What he could never ask is what the shelves were for. 7 years at that table, and he has never once asked about a book. And the son said, "Fine, the shelves are fine, your work is holding," which was true, and which answered the question he was asked and buried the one he was not. And the father nodded, satisfied, and filled the son's plate again, because feeding was the one language he knew every word for. He told the barber his boy was in books. He said it the way a man says a thing he is proud of and cannot lift. Understand, he was not incurious. He was outmatched. He was a man who moved through his entire world by being useful, hands first, and there is no use for those hands in another man's alphabet. He did not know what he would do in a building like that, where everything was already carried and nothing needed fixing, and a man does not go where his hands are strangers. And he believed, we are certain of it, that the asking was the visiting to him. That the question, faithfully asked every evening, was the climb. He climbed those stairs every night with his mouth. He never once climbed them with his feet. 14 steps. He has driven 14 miles for bait. Periodically, across the 7 years, the son opened the near door and asked him up. Not often. A man can only afford so many. That the answer never varied in substance, only in costume, and it had 3 sentences in it, and here they are, back, as promised. I don't understand it. I wouldn't know how to help. I don't know what you are trying to do. Enter them gently, because they are not cruel sentences. They may be the 3 humblest sentences a man like that can say. He then enter what the son could not see for years, because he was too busy being wounded by them. All 3 are requests wearing the costume of verdicts. I don't understand is an application for a story. I wouldn't know how to help is a man standing at a threshold with his hands out, asking to be handed a plank. I don't know what you are trying to do is an order form for a front card, submitted in the correct hand, 7 years running, to a librarian who kept filing it under layer. And here this report has to stop, because the world underneath it moved while we were filing, and these reports are living documents where they are nothing at all. Tonight, the actual tonight, the one this page was written inside of, the father asked a new question. 7 years, and then, unprompted, between the scores and the play, and how is the book coming? A book. Asked after, for the first time in the recorded history of that table. We are not going to pretend the house didn't shake. And we are not going to lie about the rest of it either, because this world of all worlds keeps honest ledgers, so both cards get written, and in the same hand. Card 1. He tried. A man who believes asking is visiting reached tonight for a farther question than any he had ever carried, and in this book you are required to notice a man trying, every single time, no matter what the next card says. Card 2. It was the 494th book he asked about. The newest one. The only one he has heard of, because it came up once in one conversation, and asking after cost him no reading, no stairs, no page, the question of an attentive father, performed from the couch, in the light of the box, in the scene between 2 westerns. This is a world about men who cannot practice what they preach. And there he sat, preaching attention, practicing none, and trying, all in one sentence. If he had wanted to land the blow of his life, it was one flight up, sitting on shelving he built with his own 2 hands. Pull down any of the other 493, anyone, read a single page, and ask about something inside it. A question about a spy knocks at the door. A question about a page walks in and sits down in the chair. Yet tonight, for the first time, at the 494th door, he knocked, and we will take it. A knock is a knock. The ledger says so, and the walking in has still, after all these years and all these rooms, never once happened. The 494th book, the one he asked about, is the one you are inside of right now, and its whole subject, though he does not know it, is why he never asked about the others. There is a darker card in this catalog, and we are going to pull it, because a classification that skips the worst door is a decoration. Ask why a man never opens a door in his own house, and the kind answers run out around the 3rd year. After that, the unkind one is just standing there in the hall. He does not know what is in the room because he does not want to know. And knowing would arrive with a bill attached. To see the 494 rooms is to learn that the boy at his table has been somebody else entirely for 7 years, somebody with halls in him, and that every fine was a locked wing, and a man who learns that at supper has to do something with his face. Not knowing this cheaper, and not knowing keeps the boy the size of the word book, and a boy that size fits upon a kitchen table, and nothing has to change. But we have written the unkind answer into the record because it earned its card. And now watch what the son does with it, because this is the true turn of this world. He refuses it. Flatly. Not because he can refute it. He cannot. The door has not opened in 7 years. The evidence runs all one way. He refuses it the way you refuse a diagnosis with your own name misspelled at the top. And nobody, the son says, is that far gone. And nobody chooses all the way down, at the very bottom of themselves, not to know their own son. There is a floor under every man where the wanting to know survives, pilot lit, waiting on a draft, and the whole library is a bed on that floor. He cannot prove the floor exists. Proving it would take the one event that has not happened. So the bet stands uncollected, and he keeps building, and you may call that faith or you may call it stubbornness. In the ledgers the two share the same number. And enter this too, because it is the strangest pairing in the file. Each of these 2 men lives one door away from a truth he has decided he cannot afford. The father at the bottom of the stairs, the son at the top of an unkind answer. They do not file the 2 doors as twins, because they are not, and the difference between them is the whole estate. The father's door is unlocked. It has said so on its record for 7 years, and his hand has never once tried the handle. The son's hand has tried his many times. You have watched him try it in every chapter of every book. Every invitation up those stairs was this hand on this knob, and the door does not give because it's locked, and it is locked from the other side. That is the exact shape of the son's cell. Whether a man wants to know you is not a room you can break into alone. It opens only from inside the other man. The father could settle it in 14 steps. The son cannot settle it at all. One of them has a door you will not open. The other has a door without a handle. One more card, and this one goes in the son's own column, because these ledgers are honest where they are kindling. The library has no front card. A note guide at the door. 490, 4 spines, each with its one true number, and nowhere in the building a single plain page that says what the whole thing is for, in words a man with hands could hold. He classified everything except the reason. A stranger off the far roads can wander in and feel the order. A father needs the story, and the story is the one thing the librarian never wrote, though it was on order the whole time. The third of the 3 sentences had been requesting it, politely, for 7 years. The book this report lives in is that page, written late, in the 12th hand, which was always the first hand. It should have been card number 1. It took 494 books to even find the right words. And when finding deeper, because this world has a floor under its floor, and we have been standing on it the whole time. The Father is a believing man. He keeps a verse for it, and you know the verse. It is read at every funeral in that valley, about a father's house, and the many rooms in it, and a son who goes ahead to prepare a place, so that where he is, you may be also. The Father hears that verse the way he hears all of his religion, as a promise that somebody is coming, that the healing arrives from elsewhere, that heaven is delivered to the patient, like rain, and the whole job of a man is to wait well, and he has waited well his entire life, 60 years, at his end of the couch. It is the most honest waiting we have ever filed. But he has never once heard the meaning of the verse he loves, and we mean truly heard it, because in the verse, nobody is waiting. In the verse there is a son, and the son is working, gone ahead, preparing rooms in his Father's house, so the 2 of them can be in it together. What the Father calls God, the Son calls the Self, and the difference between those 2 words is not theology. It is a work order, and a question of who shows up to fill it. But while one man waits for the world to be healed by an arrival, the other is one flight up the stairs with glue on his hands, building for the arrival, room by room by room. In his Father's house are many rooms. 494 prepare, with a place kept in every one of them, and no death is required for entry. Only the stairs. There's one more room to show you before we close. The first room, the bedroom the whole thing grew from. It still has the bed the staff sleeps in, and a window facing the yard where the truck sleeps, and a chair at the far end of it. He built the chair before he built the catalog, the one piece of carpentry the son ever attempted alone, and it shows, and he has never let the staff repair it. It is a good chair anyway, broad in the seat, high in the back, and it is not angled to the window. It is angled to the near door. It is angled toward the son's desk. The ledgers do not record who it was for. The ledgers don't have to. It has been dusted every day for 7 years, and in that world, it is the longest prayer ever written. So that is the report, except for the turn, which you know is coming by now, because the turn is the part of these broadcasts that is addressed to you. We are the staff. You knew that. All 12 hands are one hand. The halls were the only ones fooled, and the halls were being kind. But we are the man on the ladder, and the man at the desk answering him crossly on Friday, and some nights we are even the strangers, walking the far roads in the dark to leave ourselves a brick, because a man must eat something. And the wheat, you should understand, has never once had a door in it. It is the whitest room we own. It holds the carvers and the deputies and the fish with the ruined eye, and it holds the porch and the plate you keep filling, and you. It always held you. It holds your shelves. They were never once empty. You have been in the collection from the first board. A library of one was never a census. It was a vacancy. It was a job description.
So we are begging you, and you can hear how desperate the begging has gotten, brick by brick, world by world, one supper at a time, climb the stairs, an evening. There are 14. The third from the top speaks when you load it wrong, so load it wrong. We want the warning. We would meet you at the landing. The door was never locked. Check the record. There's no key in it, because a key is a thing you cut when you believe somebody might try the handle. You won't know what to do with your hands, and it won't matter. Nothing in there needs fixing anyway, and that was never the job. Though if the hands must have work, every shelf in the building is yours. Walk the wings, inspect your joints. And they have held for 7 years without one sag, under a weight you have never asked to name, and there is no prouder inspection on offer in this world. Bring nothing, or bring your reading glasses, and we'll pull one book, not the newest one, the first one, and you can't ask us anything at all about what's inside it, and the question will stand as a third brick, and the collection will stand at 3, and 3 in that hall after these 7 years would sound like a crowd. The chair is at the far end, by the window, facing the desk. It would take your shape in a week, the way cheap cushions do. Now come look at the shelving. It holds more than you will ever know.